Over the past few years, we've taken a look at a bunch of different HomeLab dashboards that were mostly used as a central, easy way to access our self-hosted apps. Some of them let us bookmark links and URLs to basically whatever we wanted to, and others even allowed us to get real-time information about our apps and services in an easy-to-use kind of way. Today, we're going to take a look at a dashboard that has a completely different purpose entirely. What we're going to take a look at today is a self-hosted dashboard that is meant for families to use as a central way to communicate and stay on top of things. What we're taking a look at today is called HomeHub. So last week I was scrolling through Reddit and I ran across this post in r/self-hosted from a user whose name I will butcher if I try to say it. So I'm going to skip over that, and I'm doing that out of respect. Basically, it says HomeHub, a private lightweight dashboard for your family to use on your home network. On your home network is going to come in to play a little bit more later. We're going to talk about that. Basically, they're saying that they built HomeHub, a private lightweight dashboard for your family to use on your home network that's easy enough for anyone to use without any fuss. They go on to mention another project that they've built in the past, and it's saying you can run it on any machine on Docker or bare metal. It combines a bunch of little utilities that we use all of the time in one clean interface. Basically, the idea behind why they built this is it was built to serve a purpose for their own home, the developer's home, and their family and that sort of thing. And then they realized, hey, this might be helpful for someone else out in the community. So they put it over on GitHub. We'll take a look at the GitHub repository in a moment, and made it available for anyone who wants to self-host it. I really love when a personal solution like this gets developed and then released into the community so that the community can also benefit from that product. If we come back over to my desktop here, it says what it does: shared notes, shopping lists, to-do/chore tracker, who is home status board on the main page, an expense tracker, a media downloader, and a few other things like a recipe book and expiry tracker. And I love all of the ideas that have gone into this. Said it's been super useful for my family. Hope your family finds it useful as well. And then, of course, it goes on to have links and that sort of thing in further on in this post. If we jump over to the GitHub repository here, again, more of the same information, but what I really want to scroll down is talk about what it can do. And I wanted to read it from here on the GitHub page because it's meant to be more informative than a typical Reddit post. So it's packed with useful tools to make family life a bit more organized, with shared notes, simple place to jot down quick notes for everyone to see, shared cloud, easily upload and share files across your home network. This one and a couple of others I think are unnecessary for most people, but luckily we can turn off the features that we don't need, and it's very, very easy. There's a shopping list. I love this. It's a collaborative list so that you never forget the milk again. Come with suggestions based on your history. There's a chore tracker. I love that. Calendars and reminders. Again, great stuff. Who's home? If you've got a lot of kids in and out and family members or roommates or whatever, you can track who's home, who's not. Of course, that's only going to be dependent on, or that will be dependent on whether or not the people checking in and out actually check in and out. Next, we've got an expense tracker and a media downloader and more, including a recipe book, expiry tracker, URL shortener, PDF compressor, and a QR code generator. So as I mentioned, I think there's a lot of great services built into this, and I know the developer is actively working on adding things and changing things and cleaning things up, making things better. This is still very early in the development. There's currently 178 stars, and this was just released last week. What we want to do now is actually take a look at the instance I've set up for demonstrative purposes, and then we'll talk about how easy it is to get installed on your Docker system. So this is the HomeHub dashboard, and this is more or less what it's going to look like when you first log in. There are a couple of things that I think do need a little bit of work, and I'll just address those quickly. There are two separate notes down here. I don't know if it's because I'm colorblind, but I can't really read what that says, and I can't seem to find a way to change the color of the little surrounding text around the individual notes based on who is writing what note. Would love to see an ability to change that, but that's just me getting ahead of myself like I tend to do. Let's start in the top left corner, HomeHub. You can change what this text says right here in a config file. We'll take a look at that in the installation portion of the video. Down the left side in this left column, we've got our welcome, which is our home page. We've got shared notes. Here we can do exactly that. We can share notes. We can see this is the note, but we can see who wrote it and when. We've got a shared cloud, so you can upload pictures or files or whatever that somebody else in the family or in the household might need access to for whatever reason. I could see this maybe being good for medical information in case of emergency, or any kind of idea or any kind of app that somebody might need to share very quickly and easily on their dashboard. We've also got a shopping list, which I love. We can see not only what it was down here, but we can see who added it. What I love about this specifically is that if you mark it as purchased, right, we can go through and we can click some of these. And then let's say some of these are things that get purchased regularly. Once you're done with your shopping for that day or whatever, you can just uncheck it and it brings it right back into a status where it needs to be purchased again. And I love that. I think that's great. Of course, we can add additional items to our shopping list here. And I skipped over, but you can choose a file here to upload. Shared notes, again, you can just write a note and click save. I apologize. I skipped over that because that's how my brain works sometimes. So shopping list, again, we can add items and click add. To-do/chores. We can add a chore here. There's really no way to assign this to a user, but it kind of is what it is. This is a very basic setup at this point in time. So, you can make a video, vacuum the floor, mark it as done, mark it as undone, whatever the case is. Something I am noticing here, in fact, I wonder, only the administrator, I switched over right up here on the top, we'll talk about that. Only the administrator can delete these things. I'm logged in, because that's, the administrator was the one that created this. Recipe book, I love the idea here, but you put a title, a link, ingredients, and instructions. And this is what it does to those ingredients and the instructions. This was the first one I added down here, where you can see I've got the little square in front of each one of these. Those used to be individual lines, but it stripped out all of that and made it a huge run-on paragraph for both the ingredients and the instructions. Would love to be able to see some formatting in there if at all possible. But just fill everything out, click add recipe, you're good to go. Expiry tracker, so maybe your milk is going to expire on a certain day, you can put that in there. Or you can use this however you need to make sure that people know when things are going to expire. There's a URL shortener here. This one baffles me. I don't know why this would need a URL shortener. I genuinely have no idea why a dashboard would have a URL shortener, especially when this app is not meant to be put on the internet. This is meant to be locally hosted, locally accessed. No remote access is intended for this. And again, we'll cover why here in a little bit. Media downloader, again, I don't know. I don't know if this actually downloaded. It did.
Thank you so much.
Geez. So that downloaded, I might like to see this open in a new tab, maybe, I don't know. But again, I don't know why you would want or need a media downloader here. Just seems like throwing extra things into the kitchen sink. Same thing with PDF compressor and QR code generator. I don't know why you would have these things in a dashboard like this, but they're there. And again, we can turn them off, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then there's an expense tracker. This one kind of makes sense. If you're sharing expenses with somebody or whatever, you can track your expenses so everybody can kind of keep tabs on what's going on. I would think though, if you're sharing expenses, you're probably also sharing a bank account. So this maybe also seems a little bit shoehorned in, but not nearly as much as a couple of the other apps or services built into this. So let's come back to the home page. Again, pick a tool from the left to get started. It's got the current date and time. This is a bit of a misnomer, though. It doesn't actually, like I'm refreshing the page about once a second here. So I would like to see this maybe running in real time as far as the time is concerned. Family notice board, this one, because I'm an administrator, shows up big and bold and great, and that's awesome. But again, down here, the mom note and the dad note, I can't read those. So maybe it'd be nice to have those. Each user could have a color associated with them or whatever. And then over here on the right side, we've got a calendar, where we can just go, we can add an event, give it a title, give it a description. Very, very basic stuff. It's not going to be good for exact times unless you're putting that in the video or in the description here as well. And then here we can see who's home, who's not. Again, I'm logged in as DB Tech. That's the admin user. But if I log in as mom, I can say, mom is away, and we can kind of see those. Or maybe mom is now home, and now we can see that as well. Again, that's going to be dependent on whether or not people actually check in and out throughout the day if they leave the house. So there's definitely some cool functionality built into this app. Again, there are some things that we kind of glossed over deliberately here. And one of the things I mentioned a couple of times was this is meant to be hosted locally. This isn't meant to be put out onto a reverse proxy or something like that. And the reason for that is only the administrative user gets a password. And we set that in the config file that we'll take a look at. But as of the time of recording this video, the individual users, in this case, mom and dad, those accounts can just be toggled through back and forth without any credentials. You just use, like we showed up here, you just toggle through the users over here, but you can just toggle back and forth on the user accounts, again, without any credentials. Also, if you're gonna have things like an expense tracker and those sorts of things where it's basically accessible, I wouldn't put that on a URL publicly facing on the internet without taking some additional precautions via some sort of reverse proxy login system. You could do that, but again, anybody who has access to that will be able to toggle back and forth. So there's going to be a certain amount of trust built into this platform at the time of recording. So with that little demo out of the way, let's actually take a look at the Docker Compose as well as the config file. First, we'll take a look at what is over on the GitHub repository, and I'll show you what mine looks like, and we'll make some changes in real time so that you can see how some of this stuff works. So let's jump over to my desktop. So we've got a compose file and a config-example file. These are really the only two things that you need here at this point. So the compose file is really straightforward. We've got our services, of course, that's the top of any Docker Compose, the service name and the container name, all very, very basic stuff here. We've got an image from the GitHub container repository, again, with the name that I will definitely screw up if I try, and then the image, HomeHub, with the latest tag there. There's a build line here that could come out. If you wanted to clone the repository and build it locally, you could do that. You would just comment, out this line and uncomment this line. I don't know why my page did that. That was weird. And then you could build it locally if you wanted to go that route. Below that, we've got ports. This is on port 5000 by default. If you've already got an app using port 5000, only change this first 5000 right here that's highlighted. Don't change the colon or anything after it. Below that, we've got some volumes for upload media, PDFs, data, and the config file. I didn't have any issues with my setup creating this automatically, so as far as the directories are concerned, you will need to create that config.yaml file in order for this to work. But what you will notice here on this config.yaml file is that it is set to read only. So the app shouldn't be able to make any changes to whatever is in the config file. So just a little clarification there. We've got a couple of environment variables here for flask underscore env and secret underscore key. We've got production and secret key. Now this secret key here is meant to be in the config file. I believe I read that somewhere over here. Set via a .env falls back to a random if not provided, which is cool, except that in the compose file up here, there's no secret key in here when I look at this. So it's going to fall back to a random string of characters, which is probably fine anyway. But while we're here, this is the config file that we were talking about a moment ago. And these are the things that you can change to configure the service to your needs. Again, the instance name originally said My Home Hub. Right here, it just says Home Hub because I took out the my in this line of the config file. Again, the password I left blank, and that is the password for the administrator. Again, the admin name, this is administrator by default. I made by DB Tech just because I wanted to see what would happen. Below that, we've got feature toggles. So shopping list, media downloader, PDF compressor, QR code, right? All of this stuff, all of these by default are set to true. If at any point you want to turn them off, you can set them to false, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Below that, we've got family members, mom, dad, some other names in there as well, and then some theme colors. And we've got primary, secondary background, card color, text color, sidebar. Maybe this would fix that issue I was talking about. Maybe we'll look at that. Text color, sidebar, background color, text color, right? All of this is changeable, however you want to handle that. Though I find it interesting that some of these are hex and some of these are RGBA. I don't know why they decided to mix and match those seemingly randomly. But that's basically, you just need that config, or this config file that we're looking at here, as well as the compose file listed here as well. So if we take a look at what I've got in my setup here, I cloned the repository, so there's going to be a lot of unnecessary stuff in here, but we've got our compose, we've got our config, we've got our different directories. We can see those in blue over here. So if I do let's do a nano on the config like this. Again, I think the media downloader is silly for my use case anyway. Same thing with the PDF compressor and the QR code. Generator. So I'm just going to set all of those to false. Shared cloud, I don't have a need for that either. Chores, recipes, expiry tracker, URL shortener, false. We'll just leave everything else there. Card color, background color. Let's change this to 333 and let's change this to FFF. The card background color 333, that's going to be kind of a gray, and the FFF is going to be white. So I'll do a Control O and enter and Control X. And what's cool about this is I can just refresh the page. It pulls that config in real time without having to redeploy the container. And I actually really, really love that. Let's come back over to here. That did not fix my issue. It did not. So that's it. I just wanted to make sure or see how that was going to work, right? So it's very, very easy to toggle different features on and off with this kind of thing. Let's also do this. It's called the DB Tech HomeHub, and let's add a password because I'm genuinely curious, right? And then we're going to come over to here, and we're going to refresh, and oh, that password's required for everyone. That's an interesting idea. Cool. I like that even less. I do. I like that even less. But here we are, DB Tech HomeHub. Again, we got the password. We changed a bunch of stuff without having to reload the Docker Compose, and I love that. Once you've created your config file and your compose file, of course, all you got to do is Docker Compose up-d, and you're up and running in just a couple of minutes. One other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is that this image right here, this HomeHub image, 333 megabytes, so not too bad for all of the different bits of functionality built into that. just wanted to share that with you so you know what you were getting into with regards to an image download size. So that's HomeHub in a nutshell. I probably missed something or misrepresented something. It happens sometimes. I've not had enough coffee today. But I think it's a great project. I think it's got a lot of potential. After looking through the GitHub, or not the GitHub, but the Reddit post, the developer was very open to being conversational and understanding and taking criticism very, very well, taking suggestions. Very, very, very friendly guy from what I can tell, at least in the Reddit thread there. I'll have links to everything in the video description if you want to check this out. Would love to know what you guys think about HomeHub down in the comment section below. Would also love to see you guys give this project some stars over on GitHub. Currently at 178 stars. Would love to see that number go up if this is a project that you're interested in. But I think that basically covers everything I wanted to cover in this video. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.